With an economy that big, you need a segmented approach. You need to appeal to different segments with different properties and different price points and different attractions. And I would argue that they've only focused on the top 10%.
What's going on, my friend? What's going on?
Well, I think for both of us, it is a busy time of year, but despite what it is you may have going on, I got so much positive feedback on the first episode, despite you, that I knew
Yeah, because it's me. It's
yeah,
me.
it was just you. They said, lose Steve. But no, I said I can't lose
Just
Steve. He's my
let him
friend.
down gently. Just let him down gently.
So
He's got a big
decided that
heart.
we had
He's
to
got a big
record
heart.
another episode. But what's going on with you other than that?
You know what? You nailed it. It's just it's that end of year rush. All cylinders are on full tilt. 2044. We're wrapping up a bunch of things. We've got a new study in field right now on behaviors of AI in Canada with the Canadian Marketing Association. So that's wrapping up. That's exciting. That's fun. Well, that data will be shared in the new year. Lots of things going on the advisory front as well as those organizations wrapping up. And then just personally, like I've just got lots of things going on. I'm excited. I'm super excited. What about you?
Well, I had my first board meeting with Ontario Genomics. That was fantastic. A lot of smart people working there, obviously, and a lot of stuff going on personally as well. Actually, going to be going on a family vacation. End of January, I'm taking my daughter to a very special place for her birthday, which I'm not going to say until after we tell who this episode is. So you want to drop the hint,
There
Steve?
you
I like your
go.
hints.
There you go. Well, listen, I got a question for you before we start. And I think it's a really important question. What happens when the house starts to lose?
And that leads into where we are today. The place I will be taking my daughter for her 21st birthday, it is Las Vegas. Today, instead of doing an individual brand, we're going to be doing Las Vegas. And let me jump into our analysis so that we can actually talk some numbers. Actually, Steve, before we get into the numbers, you had a great anecdote about this sign that you shared with me a little while ago.
Oh, yeah, right. This is something as I was kind of digging in, doing a little bit of research around Vegas and for this episode. And this is something I think was really interesting because I've had my picture. I think everybody's had their picture taken beside the sign. It's famous. When the designer was designing this the fabulous Las Vegas sign, they asked the city if they could have like no copyright on it. So, people can take that picture, they can share it, they can reproduce it, they can do all kinds of things with it. And there's no copyright issues with it whatsoever. So, I think this is why it's been reproduced so many times. It's actually a very rare thing. Apparently cities, they go that's why it's usually really kind of government-y looking, most of the kind of cities, whereas obviously Vegas wanted a little more pizzazz, finazz, whatever you want to call it. Obviously it's Vegas. I thought that was just a fascinating little anecdote.
Very cool. Let's jump into our analysis here. All right. Why are we talking about Vegas? Well, they've had 9 months of consecutive decline, year-over-year visitor volume drops through October 2025. Hotel occupancy is down 6 points. Revenue per available room is dropping by 17% year to date, and strip gaming revenue down year-over-year by 4.4%. So you may have actually seen some videos online, people talking about Vegas, why that people aren't going to Vegas, and that why Vegas declines are happening. And so we decided this was a good one to tackle. So we've actually dug in and found some real numbers. And one of the questions was, is it just versus a tough comp situation? because they did have some big events going on in 2024. But it doesn't look that way. It looks like the 25 decline is an acceleration from an already weakened baseline, not a return to normal. The market is shrinking structurally. And if we look at the pre-pandemic peak, they were at 42.5 million visitors. Now they're down to 38.8 million visitors. So this is definitely a shrinking market here.
Going in the wrong direction, that's for sure.
And in this case, what I actually did was just take a look at all of the casino resorts that were on the strip and counted them up and put them somewhat qualitatively into different buckets based on a couple of different factors, including what the average price per night was. I'd say about 34% of them are targeting that wealth luxury target, which only represents 10% of the population. And so they definitely have a misalignment, and I think that's happened gradually over the years. Vegas successfully drove away its core customer base. Basically, Vegas increased the percentage of wealthy visitors, but drove away so many budget travelers, the total visitor volume declined. They tried to trade their mass market for a smaller niche. And actually, I've seen some interviews with some casino CEOs who said that that was actually their strategy. However, the strategy was not to lose total visitor numbers to the point where they actually saw declines in.
But the CEO of Caesars, actually, he had to come out and apologize for those comments, actually.
Yeah, and then on top of that, on top of just building casinos that were targeted only towards the wealthy 10%, they also had started bringing in more fees, and so these tin resort fees, which are often not obvious when you book the hotel, the analysis actually shows is that actually impacts the budget tier and the mid tier more than it does the luxury in terms of a percentage of the total ticket price that people are expecting to pay in the first place. So you already have, a decline in the number of sort of budget friendly options. And then they all brought in these hidden resort fees. But as a percentage of the average room per night, that's about a 60% increase for budget travelers. So you're squeezing the low end while not providing them enough opportunities. So MGM CEO admitted, shame on us after the 2025 backlash. A subsequent value-focused campaign doubled bookings in 1 week. So obviously, if they start playing a little bit more fair, the people are willing to forgive them. It looks like, at least from the face of it, based on MGM's results. The other thing that I would focus on is the fact that the industry pivoted from successful broad market strategy to a narrow adults only focus, eliminating a massive customer segment. So back in the 90s to 2001, and if you're as old as I am, you remember when Vegas kind of took this, it went from sort of Sin City to more of a family all-inclusive approach to Vegas. And that's when they started building the roller coasters in New York, and you could go see an aquarium, or you could see the lions at Mirage. At the time, they made about a $12 billion investment in family-friendly infrastructure, and it drove massive growth. However, today they've really kind of abandoned that and gone back to this sort of adult playland marketing campaign that was launched all the way back in 2002. Yes, but if you look at what happened is casinos like Mirage have closed. New York is actually, I would argue, from a qualitative standpoint, it's still, even though they still have the roller coaster, they've gone away from the family friendly, and they've really pivoted towards the adult only playground again.
Yeah, Ian, my first experience with Las Vegas actually was in the mid 90s. So I went there as a 20 something on a work trip at a convention. And of course, you're just blown away by this experience in the city. And they were in the middle of, that transition to more family friendly. So I remember walking by, and Treasure Island, I think, was brand new at the time. And they had the big boat, the big pirate thing. And it was a pirate show. Like, it looked like any high quality Disney show. And that was, pretty neat, right? About 2 years after that, I was back in Vegas again. I can tell you, I've been to Vegas like dozens of times. I don't even want to, it's also almost embarrassing how many times I've been there. And I'm not even a gambler.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
But I've experienced everything like the golf courses and the shows and things like there's so much in Vegas to experience. But anyway, went back and Treasure Island had now become, they had switched back only in a couple of years, switched back to, instead of being Treasure Island, it was called TI. And I got to tell you, that pirate show, there was less clothes on those actors
Yeah.
I've ever seen. I mean, it was a monumental shift from that family friendly idea of being family friendly. It really was against their brand. Let's face it. If you look back at the 120-year history, it has a checkered history, but that history is what makes it unique. It's what makes the culture unique in Vegas. It actually what gets a lot of people to come. It's the organized crime mixed with Hollywood actors, mixed with high-end this and high-end that. And so all of this together is what gave it its unique experience and culture. So I think they were trying to go counter to the brand. I'm not against having some aspects, maybe family or a district or something about it, but that's not the main strip. It was never meant to be that. I'm not surprised they went away with it and went back to the adult only strategy. I think, like the numbers they started to go up regardless. It's just been the last number of years that you've seen sort of this decline happening, which I know we're going to get into a little bit maybe on why that decline beyond what some of the data is telling us as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely an interesting argument. Whether or not the family boom was something that they could sustain, or if it was strategically correct. I think what I would argue is that they've oversupplied only to one segment right now, and that's this new luxury supply. And so if we look at some of these big new casinos that they built, so they like Mirage is being torn down, right? Or if it isn't already torn down, I'll find out in a month
Right.
anyways. And then they replace them with Fontainebleau. I don't know if you've been to Fontainebleau. It looks like a giant, beautiful mall, but it's empty.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
obviously targeted to the top 10%. Resorts World is huge. It's actually reporting financial losses, and it's super expensive. Whether or not it's high end in decor, we could argue, but it's expensive as hell, and it's not doing well at all. And then Hard Rock Mirage, it would be more probably in the family friendly area, but it's definitely not what Mirage was. And so I think what my argument would be is that 100% of the focus has been on luxury and the high end of luxury, and they've excluded all of these other groups. And so while certainly maybe they went too far before in the family friendly boom to become, you're not Disney World, but with an economy that big, you need a segmented approach. You need to appeal to different segments with different properties and different price points and different attractions. And I would argue that they've only focused on the top 10%, which is
Well,
yeah.
yeah, it almost fits into the podcast we talked about with On and the difference between premium and luxury. They've completely ignored the premium audience, which there's a huge audience out there. And I just want to touch on your resort fees for a second. Again, I've been there enough times to remember, and it's beyond feeling like you're nickel and dime, almost to the point where they've forgotten how to be hospitality first. They've forgotten about why they're there and why they exist. Anybody that's been to Vegas 10 years ago or any period of time between, just before all these fees started and all these various different nickel and dime, you sat down at any table, anywhere, at any size, and somebody came by and offered you a drink. It could be a soda, it could be a hard liquor, whatever you wanted. If you were playing, they were happy to give you a free drink. Now they track you. There's apps that you have to download in some of the hotels. It doesn't feel like the experience that Vegas was. And that when you went there, I don't want a all-inclusive resort experience. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm not in the Barbados or something. I have no problem paying what I need to pay for meals and things like that. But there's there's a seamlessness or a hospitality first mindset that has just disappeared across everything. And again, I think that's a big reason why you're seeing these numbers the way these numbers are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would argue, once again here that, to your point, I think they've sort of done three things uh, to lead to their own decline. Would be my argument based on this analysis. And a failure to segment, and so they're all, all everybody's trying to get the top 10% of earners, and 34% of the supply is now targeted at the top 10% alone. And that's just wrong in terms of having a proper, larger economy. Two, trust destruction. To your point, it's not just about the fact that it's expensive, although that's definitely part of it. It's also that it seems somewhat dishonest the way that they've
Mm,
structured these hidden fees. And
yeah.
and then finally, I would argue that there has been some market abandonment, particularly around the family segment, and there's been zero new family development since they've started. Either let those resorts run down, like Treasure Island. I mean, the last
Mhm.
time I walked through Treasure Island, it was, just looked so dated. They needed to change just like the basic things, like the carpeting, and then they just haven't built anything to replace the ones that they've actually already torn down. So I would say those are probably the big three mistakes that they've made that have led to their own declines.
Yeah, the hotels as well. I mean, part of the real lure, if you talk to real Vegas goers, I mean, there's always kind of sort of three things they talk about. Real Vegas goers are typically, gambling is one of the big things. They're going there for, there's a scene as well. If you know where to go, and I could talk about that in terms of when you take your daughter. I don't. Have you ever been before? I didn't even ask you that.
Oh
Have you
yeah,
been
I've been to
before yourself?
Vegas probably like you
Yeah.
probably 10 times or so. Yeah,
Yeah. So, if you get into the scene, you know where to go, right? Or you know who to talk to take you to the places. And, there is a just, tremendous amount of amazing restaurants and clubs and things that you just don't see in the rest of the world. Like it's world class from that perspective. I don't think Vegas, and we'll get into this a little bit more. I don't think it brands itself very well as world class, but that's a different thing. But like in terms of the hotels, I don't mind the refreshness. So this is the other thing that you talk to a lot of like steady Vegas goers. That idea of you when you go there, it's like, look at that. There's another new hotel, or there's another new attraction, or there's not like I took the family to see U2 in the Sphere when they were there playing when the Sphere first opened. And I went mainly because I had not yet seen the Sphere yet, and only Vegas can actually produce those kinds of amazing experiences. And it lived up to it tenfold. I mean, it was an incredible concert experience. And I will say too, and we can talk about this later on as well, but the way they packaged things, it was the closest I can remember back to that hospitality first experience. Packaged the concert. We stayed at the Venetian. Rooms were upgraded, and there was all kinds of things. And I am not a high roller, Ian. Like anybody who knows me knows, like I am the worst gambler ever. I've got all kinds of really bad tell signs. I mean, like I think every face bone in my body twitches every which way and whatever. It's usually I got a big smile on my face and I'm holding any kind of cards of anything that matters. So,
right.
but I really felt like they had it and they were starting to package it up back together.
Note to self: invite Steve to poker night. Okay, perfect. But let's talk a little bit more about what else we're seeing about Vegas, and where you think people are going instead these days, Steve.
So this kind of leads into where I actually think there's sort of three possible ways that Vegas could think about this. These aren't necessarily strategies. This is just ways to kind of maybe frame things, right? So, and of course, I've put them in kind of cute little ways of thinking about it. But they could let it ride, they could go all in, or they could fold but stay in the game. And the fold and stay at the game, what I really mean by that is not go back to a family show. I think that was a tactical thing they did to try to go after a specific segment or a demographic, which, that can work as well. I think if they really wanted to reshape Vegas, they could look to cities of the world. Let me ask you a question. You're a well-traveled guy, but let me read out some of these names of these cities: Paris, Tokyo, Rome, London, New York, Dubai, Singapore, Barcelona, Istanbul, and Vegas. Which one of those don't fit?
Yeah, absolutely. Vegas is not. It doesn't have all of the other things that those other places offer.
But I will say, 10 years ago, one of those cities was in the same categories as Vegas, and that was Dubai. Dubai was not one of these cultural icons, one of these almost bucket list cities. That's the city I'm hearing more and more people saying, like, hey, I'm going to go to Dubai. In fact, I did a little comparison of Dubai versus Vegas. And we can get back to the other strategies a little bit later, but let me just go down this list just for fun.
Sure.
Just amuse me for a minute, will you? Um, Visitor trends. Dubai, fastest growing in the last 5 years. Uh, Record visitor numbers, diversified global audience. Las Vegas, declining. Well, we don't have to get into those numbers. You just presented a whole bunch of those numbers. Customer strategy. Dubai adds segments almost on a yearly basis: luxury, families, sports, business. Vegas removes segments: budget travelers, mid-markets. Pricing strategy. Dubai, transparent. Vegas, resort fees. Brand strategy. Dubai, global, lifestyle hub. Vegas, adult only, casino centric, national. The experience. Dubai, immersive, architectural, curated. Vegas, transactional, heavy fees. I'll just give one more here. Vision. Dubai, they created, and if you read up on it, it's actually fascinating. They reset their 20-year strategy every 20 years.
Mhm.
So, and they're coming up on that actually. But they create this unified 20-year strategy, and it's government, business. They have other sort of vacation brands come in and give their advice on what they're hearing and data. Anyway, it's brilliant how they do it. Versus Vegas seems to have taken this like corporate driven short-term focus, just get every dollar you can out of every patron, right? So like that's a stark difference. And remember, 10 years ago, that's not how people described Dubai at all. Now, I'll say, going through that list, as I kind of thought about it, that was a harsh list, I think, on Vegas. But as I went through it, I kind of thought to myself, you know what? Actually, Vegas is really close. I think Vegas could turn the tide on a few of those categories. The transactional fee one could be an easy one where they create more transparency around that. I think that'd be an easy one for them to do. And they could bring back potentially some of that mid-market that we talked about, or maybe some of that premium market as well. I'd be curious what you think about this Dubai versus Vegas
Yeah, I
approach.
think, I think definitely they're partly a victim of the fact that more places are offering more in terms of the reasons to go there. And Dubai is definitely one of the up and comers. Also gaming. I mean, you can go to a casino in Leicester Square. I mean, it's not just about the gaming anymore. There's a lot more casinos than there probably was, uh, you know, 15, 20 years ago as well. But I think if we were to measure I think the main reason is that that value for money equation has been
Yeah.
tilted out of out of tilt, and partly it's not just that the value for money equation is wrong. It's also that it feels like it's nickel and diming. It feels dishonest. It feels like it's fine print, extra charges, and people just don't like that. It makes them angry. And you don't want angry customers. It's not a good solution for them. So I think I also wonder how much it has to do with like the changing dynamics of who the owner operators are. Even 10 years ago, you had like these casino magnates like Steve Wynn
Mm,
was running Wynn. And
mm.
now a lot of these large casinos, including Blue, including the Cosmopolitan, are now being run by banks. And I
Yeah.
just don't think they have the proper bench strength, and they don't understand the market well enough. And I think they're defaulting to sort of this economic model of let's maximize revenue per head. And it's wrong.
Well, I mean, you see this happen in the restaurant industry all the time. I mean, you get a bank involved and starts to sort of dictate and call the shots, and it becomes very corporate. And this is sort of some of the things you start to see online around the comments around Vegas beyond the nickel and diming. It's if they turn down this rebranding idea. And by the way, the other ones that we should talk about a little bit as well. But when I think of Dubai actually now people will say online about Dubai that it's got, years of history. What are you talking about? This thing is like brand new. It's like, it came out of the desert like, 20 or 30 years ago. I mean, this is unbelievably new, right? And people talk about Vegas and they forget how old Vegas is 120 years old. Like when you get into some of the older parts of Vegas, and I'm not talking about just going down and seeing kind of the old strip and things like that, but if you get into some of the old parts, I mean, there is a huge amount of history in this city, and it just isn't unlocked. It's just not talked about. The culture is there. Like, let's face it, food is, like it is absolutely top tier food. They have some of the best restaurants in the world. Like, it is top tier, right? So they have all the equations to do things. They just seem to, it's just the appetite whether to do it. And to the point about if I was a banker running this, would I want to put, hundreds of millions of dollars effort? No, I'd pick the we're all in on the adult thing, or I'd just pick the let it ride, like we'll let it go for the while because there is some, and I'd be curious what your thoughts on this are, because there is some things to be said around it's a bit of a point in time. Tourism is down in general. Of course, there's some political and economic, headwinds going on right now. So all of that probably you have to take into a factor. Is this going to be a long-term thing? 26 will be an interesting thing. If this decline continues into 26 and it is as structural as you talk about, then there's a real thing here. Or is it really a thing? Is it really a thing?
Well, I think they need to start to control the narrative because if there's enough videos online, I mean, we didn't come up with this idea to do Vegas off the top of our heads. Some of them we do, but not this one. This one was because there's a lot of videos online of people saying, I got ripped off in Vegas. And so if they don't control that narrative, I actually think it will continue because there will be a perception that it's a ripoff and that we should actually look at somewhere else. And so they need to do something to control the narrative. And I don't think that they can just say it's not true. I think even by their own admission, they've admitted that they've gone too far on some of these things. And so I think now is the time for them to take control of their own narrative and do some things that make people want to come back. Or they will suffer a longer term.
If there was like an adult pass, I think that might help with it a little bit as well. Also, too, you could extend that adult pass into like the one sort of thing I think is really interesting is the disconnected nightlife. And I dug into that a little bit more. There was quite a bit of threads around that on Reddit and conversations about this. And I didn't really understand what it meant about the disconnected nightlife. And it really is like, it's challenging to get from place to place to place, or even know which place to go to, it's kind of scarcity. I mean, that's kind of classic sort of within sort of the markets in terms of, you want to create something of like luxury, again, create scarcity around it. So, but there's a real disconnected. So there's an opportunity they could connect the nightlife in a more sort of robust way. I think that'd be interesting things that could be connected to an adult pass as well. So there are things they could do probably just in the immediate, that short term, that would probably be somewhat effective to sort of change the tide. But I still think they need something big here.
Well, let's get into some very specifics. I think you're absolutely right about um, they need to do something uh, around transparency, all in passes. I love that idea. I think there are associations in Vegas, right? Like there's the LVCVA, which is that's the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority. They do have associations, obviously, that all of the casinos belong to. And I think they need to address this problem of hidden fees and resort fees head on. And I would propose that one of the first things they should do is have a sort of the price you see is the price you pay, no hidden fees enforcement, Vegas wide, and put that in all of their sort of broader Vegas marketing communications that they're stopping that. I think that would be a big move to changing the narrative. Kind of like, we
Like
heard
a
you,
transparency policy or something.
we heard you, no more of this. We're not doing it, and we're making it a mandate. And if any casino sort of sneaks it in fees, there's going to be enforcement. They're going to get some kind of fine. I think that is a very somewhat easy first step strategy they could take to address the biggest issue they have, which is this value for money perception issue.
Love it. Yeah. Yeah. So again, I think that would go along with coupling that with, for example, the sort of adult pass, if you will, as well. The other thing I thought about too was, and again, this is more around how do you expand on sphere-like experiences, and sort of these packaging of these things together where the hotel, the concert, and there's lots of these that they've done in the past as well, but it was just so well done. And I just started thinking about, even online gaming. Like, let's face it, like Vegas in terms of sports betting, sports gaming, it's huge. I would say, by the way, we didn't actually talk about that much, but I think what's probably worth noting as well, that there's for sure some erosion of some of the activity going on in Vegas due to online betting apps and things like that. But again, Vegas has always stood on other things as well, like gambling
Right.
being a huge backbone, but there's other things as well. But I think if they expanded on these sort of attractions, and like if they created like the largest online gaming dome where gamers came from all over the world to compete. They've done some of these things in the past. I know they
Yeah.
spent a lot of time on F1 racing and things like that. And these are big, complicated things that happen one time a year. They're very expensive, but just like, they're bringing together many of the different sporting, events. They're going to soon have, basketball there. They've already got football, baseball is coming, like hockey's there, like all of these major sort of sports. There was even some discussion. This might have been a ChatGPT thing, and I confused it with discussion, but bringing in the Banana Bowl, which is like a fun baseball league that has completely different rules or slightly different rules, and it's just all for fun.
That was my idea, Steve. That was one
Oh,
I floated to you.
hey,
Yeah,
Ian,
no,
what do you
that
think
came
about the
from nowhere
Banana
but
Bowl?
my mind, and that was based on the Savannah Bananas. I don't know if you've seen these
Savannah
Savannah Bananas.
Bananas.
The Savannah Bananas, this banana ball, it's pretty wild. I mean, they've got one guy who plays on stilts. They do they'll do like song and dance numbers. It's kind of like the Harlem Globetrotters. You can see here they're doing a chorus line. I mean, the Savannah Bananas at this point, they have more followers than I think online, anyways. Than I believe like all of like Major League Baseball combined or something. It's insane. They've got like a 3 million person wait list, something like that, to see games.
Just on that, on the gaming, one thing that I had kind of poked around in a little bit as well too. So they've put quite a bit of effort into trying to um, almost put like anti-effort into some of these online betting apps, right? So MGM has their thing; they put a lot of advertising, but there's a lot of these apps out there. I was I'm a big believer too. If you can't beat them, join them, or partner with them, or bring them in. I
Uh-huh.
was like, why wouldn't the hotels figure out a way that to bring customers there and they unlock new features within the apps, or they get bonus betting things or whatever. Like I'm not a betting guy, so I couldn't even tell you. But to me, it's like bring them to the physical space to still continue to play in the virtual space. Like start to bridge the gap between those things too. It'd be a great way to bring people back anyway, or at least be able to sort of bridge things a little bit, just as an idea.
I mean, talking about the sphere like you did earlier, the sphere is super cool. And even from the outside of the sphere, like if you're just walking in the strip, the outside of the sphere does different designs and things too. It's really cool. It looked like a giant smiley face at one
Yeah.
point when I was walking.
Giant ad. Yeah.
Yeah. But it doesn't draw, like, there's no easy place to sort of draw and look at it from the outside, like you can, say, for instance, the Bellagio fountain, and it's a little bit off the beaten path. And like a lot of the things in Vegas right now, the problem is that there's a perception that, I mean, even there was a perception by me that was very expensive. Like if I was going to go see U2, okay, fine, that I would pay for. But just to do a tour of the Sphere when nothing cool is going on, like a U2 concert, was prohibitively expensive and hard to get. And it just doesn't draw like that big crowd, like the Bellagio fountains still do to a degree, but let's be honest. In this day and age of like virtual reality and projection screens on the sides of buildings and drone shows, a fountain show is a little dated.
Yeah. But I guess, sure, still attracts lots of people, still tell people taking selfies. When I took the family there, we were like, that was one of the things the kids wanted to see. And my kids are in their
Yeah.
20s. So, it's still, famous in a lot of ways and quite spectacular. And there's something old and nostalgic about it. But I think you bring up another really interesting point. I didn't realize they did this costing thing for a tour of the Sphere. I'm not surprised on one hand, given everything that's been going on, but that's what's the beauty of Vegas. You'd walk down the strip and there would be this unbelievable fountain show. Or you'd look to the left and there was an acrobatic show on the other side. You went a little further and there was all of a sudden they used to have in the Mirage, the big volcano. The volcano was going off. Or you go a little further and again, the Treasure Island and the pirate show. And I'm not saying bring back the pirate show. Good heavens, don't bring back the pirate show. But like there was you felt like Vegas was giving you back. And you were okay
Mhm.
with giving it some of your money and time, right? Hard-earned money and arguably your time. So back to the nickel and diming thing, just open the dome up and let people
Yeah.
go into it. Make it like a museum and control it, ask people to get some kind of tickets, but like charging for it. Uh, it's a spectacular venue, but I'm with you. I wouldn't be going into the
Sphere,
venue.
the Sphere experience, the standard Sphere experience, postcard from Earth. It's kind of like their version of like remember the 3D or IMAX theaters. There was kind of like the shows they
Yeah.
created for themselves just to show off the experience. It's 100 to 150 bucks just for that. And so I have no problem spending, 100 to 150 bucks if I'm going to see a show. But 150 bucks just to see the inside of the Sphere seems punitive to me. I don't
Yeah.
think that's the way to draw people to Vegas and to make them feel like there's something for everybody. And so that's where I'm saying, like, have you ever seen the River show in Chicago, Steve, where they do the 3D projectors on the side of the buildings
Oh
overlooking
yeah.
the river?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool. Like
Yeah.
in my mind, that's cooler than the Bellagio fountains. And I want to see the Bellagio fountains, but once was enough because it's got, and why did I want to see it? Probably because it was in Ocean's 11. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like
Yeah.
on its own, it was the draw. Whereas the Riverwalk 3D projector, that was cool. Like I didn't know about it before I went to Chicago. I saw it and I was like, this is cool. This is something free. This is something cool. Had their lawn chairs on the other side of the river. I mean, Vegas should be that. And so to your point, they used to have like the show at Treasure Island and stuff. I think they've got a big opportunity to bring back the free show on the strip. Now, Fremont Street's cool. Fremont Street has the ceiling, but Fremont Street's not the strip. And you said Vegas is 120 years old. Is that what you said?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've seen bartenders in Fremont Street who are 120 years old. So, it's not.
uh, Fremont Street has some interesting characters, without a doubt. But it's a must see.
Yeah.
And by the way, every whatever 100 yards or so, there's a bandstand with a fantastic band playing, and you go a little further and another band, and you get everything from rap artists to rock and roll, all through that, right? So, yeah,
Last
it's an experience.
last time I was in Vegas, Fremont Street was more fun than the Strip, and that's a problem
Yeah, yeah,
because the Strip is where all the money is. And
yeah.
so, if Fremont Street's doing a better job in drawing crowds than the Strip, they've flipped it on its head. And I think they've got a couple of big opportunities on the Strip. I think they need to bring back the free spectacle, like the Treasure Island, that sort of thing. I think they should definitely be using projectors. They could do that with the Bellagio fountains if they wanted to, but they could also team up across, like, these casinos are massive, as you know, lots of room to do things with projectors.
Well, they could do phenomenal drone shows. There's all kinds of things they could do to, be like, I was thinking as you were talking there, I remember we were involved with some work with Disney and anyway, talking with some of the experience executives, customer experience executives, and just talking about how they're do things. And they would say, like, hear mom and dad, usually dad, complaining on the way in, this is so expensive and the kids are, we just drove all this way. And you never hear anybody complain leaving, right? Yes, there's a fee when you enter. You never feel it when you're in there. And even though it's happening, but they just create such an experience for you while you're there. Again, this is where Vegas is just getting from the airport to the hotel now
Yeah,
is gotten complicated. Uh, and look, I'm a fan of many of the things that Elon does and comes up with. The boring thing, I don't know if you've seen it, but I've been
yeah,
on it. It's boring, all right. It's ridiculously boring, and it's an awful experience.
yeah,
Listen, Ian, I think we've got a lot of ideas here. I think we should probably try to bring this one home. So you want me to start, and you can
yeah.
give your sort of final thought as well. So a big strategy, bold idea. I think they should start to reshape Vegas into a world-class city. And it's going to start with a lot of things we just talked about for sure. But they also need some even bigger things. And I think they've got all those things I talked about with Dubai. I think they have many of the things around world-class sites, sounds, venues. They definitely have lots of cash. So it's there to be able to do these things. The other thing I think they should think about doing is partnering with their sister city, Los Angeles, and do something with Los Angeles and Las Vegas on a grand scale and I mean, Los Angeles is, Hollywood is a world known city, but still, it wasn't in the list that I talked about even with New York or London. I think these two cities could benefit from a really strategic partnership in a big way and rebrand this, a city where it's on your bucket list. It's not one of those just like, yeah, I was in Vegas for the weekend kind of thing.
I think they need to rebalance the portfolio. I think they need to. Not everything can be the luxury top 10% of the market. You need to have hotels for families. You need to bring that back. You need to have hotels for budget conscious young people because they bring energy. Not most 20-year-olds can't afford to stay at Fontainebleau these days. And then I also think that they need to sort of champion the middle market in general. I think they need to bring back transparency to pricing, and I think it needs to be enforced sort of at the LVCVA level. Like, it needs to be a real Vegas
I
doesn't do
love
this.
that.
Yeah. And then I think ultimately, I think they need to bring back the Sphere was great, and doing F1 was cool, but they need to get back to being the attraction capital of the world. You
Mm,
know, and
mm.
I think it's sort of like they discovered Cirque du Soleil and then gave up. That's not enough. Move on. I've seen enough people, weird clowns and people hanging from ropes. Let's see something else. I want to see a drone show. I want to see some, projector shows. I want Banana Ball. I think they could definitely own it. And I'm going to double down on what you said about VR. They do have a big e-gaming arena there. I think they should build a whole theme.
I didn't know they had a big e-gaming. Okay, I
They
should
do have
probably done a little
they
more
have an
research on that.
e-gaming arena. So it is cool, but I don't think they've talked about it enough. And B, I think they should double down. I think they should team up with EA Sports or whatever that one is,
Yeah, yeah,
EA,
yeah.
and build like a whole theme park. I think, if Orlando has Universal Studios and Disney, they should build their own theme park.
Yeah, the idea you talk about around it's the idea of like you create districts. The one thing I think beyond they have sort of, old Vegas and new Vegas, that's kind of it, right? But if they started redistricting, where you do have maybe like the family area or the gaming area, the entertainment area, the nightlife area where there's an entire like just lit up, from 9 o'clock at night to whatever 5 in the morning, it's just nightlife like you've never seen before. But they start to create these districts. That's not a bad idea as well. Like that might be something that's what you're speaking about. That's interesting.
Excellent. I think we've nailed it. I think we've told Vegas how to pull out of this death dive that they're in. Excellent, Steve. Well, this one we're going to consider it done and dusted.